So I'm not 100% sure how this video is going to go, because this video is more of not a rant at all, but it's still probably classified as like a rambling more so than anything else, without structure. So buckle up, unfortunately for that. But I wanted to record something based off of, okay, so if you don't know who Nagzz21 or Vintendo are, they now have kind of like a podcast show called Tawk Time, which T-A-W-K time. It's pretty funny though. It's great. You should go check it out on both of their streams. I believe on Thursdays. I lost track of time long ago. I believe it's on Thursdays. So you should go check that out. It's 3 p.m. my time. I'm on the West Coast, so you know, make sure you mark the time accordingly. And one of the things I want to talk about that came up in there was, I believe it was Nagzz. He was talking and he talked about how people will say how they use the VRChat to kind of, you know, combat things like anxiety and stuff. And that was kind of interesting to me when I heard that. Not that I disagreed, but just like basically the concept. And then I kind of thought about it, and the fact is, yeah, I think that's something that totally could definitely be a thing when you look at why it could be a thing, right? Like, and that's kind of what I wanted to make this video about, is kind of looking at my own experience with VRChat. And I wouldn't say I necessarily have a lot of anxiety myself, but I can definitely say that I could agree with that statement, because there are definitely moments where you could be like anxious and stuff like that. And why this game can kind of like, you know, give you specific levels to deal with certain situations until you're comfortable going and like, you know, being social and stuff like that, right? Because this is a social game above all else. It's just a different way to be a social game because there's the VR aspect to it. And even then, it's pretty accessible because A, it's free to play, and B, if you don't have VR, you can still play the desktop version and still be just fine, right? Like, B, when it comes to like dealing with anxiety, one of the things I will talk about and begin with, and I'll just use myself as an example because I don't really want to, even though I'm not going to be calling anybody out in this video, I don't even want to like accidentally say anything about somebody the wrong way, if that makes sense. So I'll just go off of my experience. I started playing this game after I noticed Dyrus, who like from TSM, League of Legends, etc. I looked up, and on his stream he was playing this game. At the time he was Sans from Undertale. Sans, I've heard both pronunciations, forgive me please. He was with a Gundam, like Mobile Suit Gundam. He was with like a League champion. He was with like, this is Kakashi, like from Naruto, and they were all at Hope's Peak from Danganronpa, and it was like, what in the world are they doing? And so then I started paying attention a bit more that they were playing a game called VRChat. Now back then, a lot of the people that I actually watched that stream had just started getting into this game, and as such I started watching, and it seemed pretty cool. Like, it was a pretty amazing game in my opinion because of like the creativity of it, right? You can create all these avatars, and it doesn't seem there's any copyright issue right now, so you can create an avatar from things that already exist. You can build worlds from things that already exist. Heck, even this world right now that I'm around in, which is my new home world, it still needs a lot of fleshing out, right? Like, there's all this empty space that I plan on building things for, rooms and such like that. But if you look up there, that's Monokuma's head, or it's based off of Monokuma's head. It's not perfect because I couldn't get it perfect because I'm bad. But yeah, like that's not a thing that fortunately is kind of, you know, a problem right now. And I thought that was pretty cool. So I got the game, I started playing the game, and in one of Dyrus' streams, I saw someone named KimplE, actually. I believe it was during Dyrus' 24-hour stream. And KimplE was there reminding them to stay hydrated like they always do. They're good for that. And then I started watching KimplE stream from that point. So it's actually been like a year that I've been watching KimplE. It's just weird how time flies. One of the things I bring that up is because I want to say it was like around April to June. It was one of those 2 months. KimplE decided to make a cinema. That way, if you wanted to watch, and this is before really like kind of the new safety settings came in, which kind of allow people to kind of join and then join friends of friends and things be regulated a bit more safely for streamers, because there was a whole issue before the safety settings came in about if people try to stream snipe people and say, let's say slurs and stuff, and then get them in trouble and get their stream in trouble because they came on and said some words they shouldn't have. That streamer was going to be the one that was still liable regardless and possibly get in trouble. With the new safety settings, they've kind of fixed that a bit, so that's kind of good. But beyond that, back then they made the cinema. So basically, if you wanted to hang out with other people in the community within VRChat, within the cinema they made of a private instance, so that way like public people couldn't just come in and just like do that stuff with you guys either, you could, and you can basically kind of, you know, meet people within the community as well as watch their stream up on the big screen that was there. And it was pretty cool at the time. I visited quite often, as a matter of fact. But the first time I was kind of actually didn't even realize it, but I was kind of hesitant to go in there, even though I talked to some of these people in the chat for like several months now. The fact of going in and actually like meeting them and possibly talking to them and stuff like that, it was kind of a little bit, I guess, anxiety for lack of a better term. So despite the fact that I kind of wasn't that way in chat, I kind of was that way in a scenario where it was going to be like, oh, hey, well, now it's time to actually talk and like meet with these people. Despite the fact that they're being nice, it's not like these people have been mean or have high standards and I don't meet them. I'm like a short 2 foot tall robot bear right now, right? There's no high standards I could reach anyways. But in a little bit more serious note, what was interesting about that just was like, hey, you know, here's a scenario where it's time to kind of be social. And it was in a controlled environment though, right? It was amongst people I had already kind of known and talked to for some months at that point, but that's something that VRChat does in general now as well. So I went to the cinema that day. I ended up befriending a couple people like JJ and Nuclear Raven and stuff in terms of in-game and such, because at the time I didn't really have many people on my friends list. I had one, as a matter of fact, and they're good friends still too. That one is just as important as any that I make from this point onwards. Don't get me wrong, but like that was the first time I started making multiples and I started meeting more people and doing more stuff in that cinema and stuff. And so that was pretty cool. Fast forward to October where the safety settings come in, and then you got the instances where you can go to your menu now when something, you know, you're making a world. And if I was making a world, or if I was even making this world, but you know, if I was, let me just scroll. It's gonna take a second. Let's break the page. No, what are you doing? Oh no, I don't want to accidentally go anywhere. What is going on? I can't scroll. There we go. That was weird. Let's just derail where I'm going, so that way if someone's tabbed out, they have to look to see what's going on. That's genius. Anyway, my worlds aren't showing up. That's not good. Okay, well then we'll just choose Hope's Peak. Why not? If I went here, right, and I decide to, wow, maybe VRChat's busted while I'm trying to record this video. Basically, if I was trying to create a new instance and do stuff right now, there'd be several different layers about how I could do it. There's the public instances we can jump into and just meet any random person, which that kind of was how it was back in the older days. I say older days, but not the old days, because I'm not really a veteran, but when I first started playing the game, there wasn't the whole default home world that people load into, right? You loaded into a public hub world, and whatever was happening, and then you had to either try and get a way to drop a portal and stuff, if you didn't want to deal with it, if that was something that you just either you couldn't handle or something, which is totally fine. That was a thing back then, right? So like, there was a time where I loaded into a public hub world and someone was screaming some stuff right into my ear, not at me because I just loaded in, but like they were going off about something. It was not good. And so that's a situation where they added the private home worlds you now load into by default now, but public worlds, right? Public worlds, you load in, you can just jump in if you're someone that's a social butterfly with strangers. There you go. But they have the instances where you can go friends only, so that way you can only be people you know. Maybe that's a little less stressful for you in case that's, you know, you don't want to deal with new people necessarily, or not even that you don't want to deal with them like new people are bad, but you just have a harder time dealing with people. You need chance and time to warm up to them and such like that. You have the Friends Plus instances, which allows your friends to join and then friends of those friends to join as well if they want to, and that can be a way to meet new people without being in public instances, because then you're still in a controlled environment. It's at your own level where it's people you know, so you're probably comfortable with at least most of the people in the room. And with the new people, they're probably kind of similar to either you or your friend because they're friends with your friend. Possibly, obviously that's not always the case, but possibly like-minded people. So even if you're not friends, you might be able to become friends with them or at least talk to them and stuff without so much pressure and such. Of course, there's the Invite Plus, which means you and then anyone in the world, I believe, can invite people. So anyone you invite can also then be able to invite people. And there's the invite only like instances where you make the instance and only you can invite people into that world. So, and that's what I mean by the layers. It allows you to combat anxiety then, because then you can go at your own pace. My voice is going out. I should probably drink something. Anyway, you can go at your own pace though, is my point, right? Like you can start at invite instances, whether you're exploring and stuff like that, and you kind of just are afraid of running into new people, and then you can slowly gradually build your way up into super social and know people. So I was thinking about that because like with the Christmas and New Year's passing, a couple people I went on adventures with and such like that was not something I was even close to doing last year, right? Like the one friend I made, for example, I've met with them over the course of the holidays. I met with KimplE and a couple people within that community. We went on several adventures with them as well as other people in that community as well. Rena as well, as a matter of fact, just meeting and chilling with people that I probably wouldn't have, if I'm being really honest with myself, not done, you know, prior until I got to the point where I wanted to do it. And it's weird to say it because it makes it seem like these people are like they have super high standards, they judge and stuff like that, and they really don't. And that's just the thing, right? Like, for whatever reason, if you are someone that, you know, when anxiety hits, even if it's not something that cripples you, right? Like, it's not something that you have it's like constant anxiety that you have. I'm talking about maybe it's just a scenario, you're meeting somebody or whatever, and it suddenly hits you, right? Those logical thoughts probably aren't really there. And then when they are, it's like, well, man, I could have missed out on this conversation, this friendship, whatever, if I would have let that, you know, keep me weighed down. And I didn't, fortunately, so it's great. And that's not to say that there aren't, you know, maybe, how do I word this? I don't want to say like healthy levels of anxiety. I guess some people are kind of worried sometimes that they're maybe intruding. I'll use KimplE as an example. I need to stop name dropping people, even if, oh, I'm talking about them positively. I'm sorry. But with the safety settings, example, they started adventuring and they were kind of adamant that these safety settings were kind of a good reason to be able to go back to public worlds, meet new people and stuff like that. Now the game got more popular, and that kind of wasn't a thing because of being afraid of being stream sniped and stuff by some not so good people. So what they do is they tend to go to friends plus instances. So that way, if you're either their friend or a friend of their friend, you can just join them on an adventure when they're streaming, and they really don't mind, actually. They don't. So even though they are considered a pretty respectable person and stuff in the community, so if you have a level of anxiety for like meeting them because you're like, oh, you know, I watch your streams, they're great, I'm a fan and stuff, that's totally fine. But what you'll realize is, A, they're also just kind of a troll too, but like a good kind of troll. And I maybe make a different video about that, not them specifically, but just like when I say trolling, it usually probably has a negative connotation nowadays. They're kind of more of remind me of like when people would troll people and the person getting trolled could even enjoy it because it's like a good troll, if that makes sense. But they're also just a nice person. They're also just a chill person, as are quite a bit of people. A lot of the friends that I now have are, you know, just great, fine people, and that's kind of one of the things I want to. I have one that's online right now, as a matter of fact. But even if I go offline, like, I don't know. I guess my thing is going back to that original statement of like using this game to combat anxiety, using this game to get to a point where you can meet a bunch of people and stuff like that. It's great because then you realize you're talking to other human beings, right? Like, even though this is a game, it's still a social game. These are other people on the other side. Oh, I got some friend requests. And as such, you can look at it as ways and levels, the instances and stuff like that you can build up to that, instead of just throwing yourself into a room of a bunch of people and being like, well, I guess I gotta be social now, anxiety be darned, here we go, right? So I think that's a kind of an interesting statement, because then I looked at, oh, well, yeah, you probably could. You use the different layers, the different instances, the fact that a lot of people are kind of more chill in this game than I've seen in most online games that I've played, for that matter, too. And so it's cool. It's cool, and I think the statement is 100% correct. And I think it's because it's about how you decide you want to grow, how your own pace and stuff like that, and that's pretty cool. So like I said, this is kind of just a rambling video about that thought, because that thought kind of hit me in the middle of their podcast. Again, it was Nagzz21 and Vintendo, also known as the Man-Child Show on Twitch, doing their weekly Thursday streams, and that came up when they were talking. And it was, you should go watch that, by the way. Just also, by the time I'm recording this, it is Wednesday. If I get this video up in time, it will be Thursday, and you should probably go check that out because it's probably going to be good. They do a bunch of stuff over there, from stories and such, and it's a good time. But that statement kind of struck me, and I kind of thought about it for a while, and now I'm putting it into a video that's kind of more of a ramble. So if you watch this video all the way through, thank you so much, because I'm pretty sure there's many reasons for you maybe to just not. But you know, I should have wrote a script so that way I didn't just fall off in the end here. I don't know, it just was something that I thought was kind of an interesting thing to discuss. And then I kind of want to leave you guys with a question then, if you're watching this far. You know, have you had any levels? Maybe you're not super crippled by anxiety. Maybe it's just a light amount when it comes to social events and stuff. What is your experience with it? And has this game kind of, I don't want to say defeated it, because it can always strike at, you know, random intervals and stuff like that, but what's been your experience with it? What's your experience with this game, meeting people? Do you go to public instances? Maybe you're one of those people that you can just jump into public and you don't care, especially if you don't stream, because then there's probably less risk at that point too. But nonetheless, you know, what's been your experience both with this game, with anxiety, and stuff like that, and let's have a discussion about it. So, thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that bell notification, the actual subscribe button. But thank you so much for watching. I don't know which video will be next. We're just gonna have to wait and see. So until next time, take care and enjoy pizza responsibly. Thank you for watching.